Hi, everybody. My name is Josh, and it is my distinct pleasure to get to share with you a little bit today, just something that God has laid upon my heart, a little bit of a journey that He has had me on here in the past few weeks. And some really cool stories that have come out of this journey. And I just want to thank you for spending the time with me today. I want to thank Pastor Greg and Pastor Matt for allowing me to just share what's on my heart. And I hope that God will use it because I know He's using it in me and in my family to just grow us a little bit further along on a path with Him. So recently we all got to share time out at the beach. For those of you who are there, it was a fantastic time on Easter, as it always is. But there was one particular moment that came up that just gave me pause to think for a little bit. And it was before anything had started. I was out in the parking lot out next to the trailer, and I was waiting for Alicia and my family to come. And so I could help them to get their stuff out and get them arranged out by the tent. And as I was standing there, and really my focus was on trying to find her and make sure she wasn't inconvenienced in any way. But a gentleman came walking up, and he had a beach cart, typical for out there, and it was loaded to the brim. And he saw me standing there in pants and a button-up shirt, and of course that doesn't quite match the beach vibe. And so he asked what was going on. And I'm like, great, Lord, thank you for the opportunity. So I was sharing that we were out there to celebrate Easter together and to do some beach baptisms and just to worship the Lord. And he immediately said, well, I'm agnostic. And I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. I don't have a problem with that at all. And I thought that was the end of the conversation for him, usually is. But he stayed there for a little bit. And I'm like, okay, Lord, what is it that you're wanting to do in this moment? And he just kept sharing and sharing and sharing and talking about different things. And I gave him the space to just talk. He really wasn't there to listen to me. I could tell that he just wanted to kind of speak. And as he was speaking, inevitably, he came around to asking the question, well, what are you? And of course, that's such a loaded question. And as I was standing there, I said, well, what do you mean? I said, we're a non-denominational church. And he said, no. What are you? I said, well, and he could tell that he kept interjecting in there and kept trying to guide how I was going to answer. And I said, listen, to be honest with you, I am just a guy who wants to have a relationship with my creator. And that's it. And he stopped and he just stood there for a moment. And he said, you know what? I really like that answer. And then he went off about his business. And that was the end of the conversation. Didn't feel like there was anything more that needed to be said. I felt like the Lord had it from there, that what he gave me to say was my responsibility. And I'm praying that he just stewed on that for a while. Maybe he stayed close enough to listen, to watch, and allow the Lord to stir in his heart. But it was the question that really stood with me and stuck around. And I've been pondering that question because it's such an interesting question. What are we? What are we doing? And so as I was pondering that question, there's when you're in traditional church, you ask that question, and it's inevitably when you talk about your church and brick and mortar church, it always leads to the same kind of responses. Things like, what's your denomination? Well, what's the size of the church? How many people come on a Sunday? How many campuses do you have? How many services do you have on each campus? And then if you really want depth, well, then the question is, well, how many baptisms do you do in a year? And what's it like to count the number of salvations? Are you having a lot of people come to Christ? And those are all great questions. But then beyond that, the only thing left to answer is all about the production. Well, we have this rockin' band that's up there all the time and creating great music, and we just feel the presence of the Lord. And I'm not knocking that. I love a good concert. I love a good concert. But when it comes to having a conversation about Christ, if you noticed in there, and none of those answers really said anything about him, did it? Not a single thing. So then I started thinking, well, what's our answer? And because it's tricky, and if you've been part of a home experience, if you've invited to a home experience, you know that it's not easy to define what we are, what we do. It's not a simple answer. We church out of our home. We break bread together. We spend life together. We do things together. And maybe we talk about the logistics of what that looks like. And we talk about on a home experience night. Ours is on a Sunday night. We fellowship together. We break bread together. We often have communion together. We'll spend some time worshiping, do the message, and then we talk. But that's not the full answer. That's just the logistics. All that is just logistics. And I really want to talk to you today about what makes us the difference, what makes us different. So, where I want to start is to paint a word picture here, to give you an analogy. And one of the analogies that so often comes to mind is the picture that we use is that we're a tapestry. And I've heard that forever when talking about the church. And it's an interesting description of the church because a tapestry is the sum of many parts, all the threads expertly woven together by a master craftsman to create this beautiful picture. And the interesting part about it and what makes it so intriguing when you want to describe church this way is that the focus then becomes on the beautiful picture, and the individual threads are lost. What you see is the picture. And at first, the thought is, man, that's pretty cool. That really does describe what our church is like. And when it's masterfully crafted, it becomes a work of art. But there's a few problems with describing it as a tapestry. And here's the first one. We were never intended to be a work of art hung on display. We, as the church, were intended to be utilitarian, functional. We are made to be purposeful. And that is best seen when we are operating as a church as a whole. When the sum of the parts come together and are intertwined together, but for function, with purpose, intentional. That's not a tapestry. That's not a tapestry. See, a tapestry on a wall is a lot like faith without works. See, James 2:15-18, if a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warmed and filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. And show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. So show me your faith without works, and I'll show you a tapestry hanging on a wall. The second, as I mentioned, the individual threads in a tapestry that get lost in the beauty of the whole. When it becomes a piece of art and it becomes more about what the picture is itself and less about the individual threads. And as beautiful as that statement is, there is a problem because those individual threads are still there. They're not completely lost and they can still be seen. You see, you flip a tapestry over and they are very visible on the backside. The problem is on the backside of a tapestry is this chaotic display of individual threads competing for the eye's attention. it is no longer a thing of beauty, but a thing of chaos. The whole is lost in the chaos of the individual. See, in James 2:8-9, if you really fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And you're doing well. But if you show partiality, you're committing a sin and are convicted by the law of transgressors. That chaos is not a picture of what we are. The tapestry on the front is not a picture of what we are. What we need is a better picture. And interestingly enough, in a conversation that PG and I were having, it came to mind that what we really are is an Afghan. It's just an Afghan. See, like a tapestry, an Afghan consists of individuals that make up a whole. However, rather than the individual threads, an Afghan is made up of individual stitches consisting of long runs of yarn, looped and hooked to create a pattern. And unlike a tapestry, it is not made to hang as art, but rather it is made to be utilized to bring warmth and even security to someone. If you've ever had that cold evening, a nice warm Afghan, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. It is a beautiful picture of security. It draws you in. It doesn't just bring you warmth. It brings you coziness and comfort. It makes you feel better. Is that not what we are? Is that not what we're called to be? It gives value and purpose. See, the interesting thing about a tapestry, and I mentioned earlier that it functions as a work of art. It's usually hung up on a wall. Well, with a piece of art, the value of a piece of art, I need you to hear this. The value of a piece of art is defined by the beholder. Those who look at it are the ones who assign worth and value to a piece of art. But when you talk about the functional utility of something created, equally created by a master's hands, but because of the function and utility, it is the creator that assigns the value and worth to the object created, because they did so with intention and purpose. So when we talk about functioning as that group that comes together, we're functioning as that blanket that comforts, we are functioning with the utilitarianness, with the utility, with the value and worth assigned by our Creator, not by the world. That's what we are. The other thing, too, about an Afghan that is more descriptive of what we are is it really doesn't matter which side you have it on. You can turn it over which way or not, and it is the same, both top and bottom, front and back. An Afghan can be of any size. You can knit together this little bitty pot holder, but it's still the same stitching as an Afghan. And then it becomes bigger because somebody chose to make it bigger. The person who sat and lovingly cared for it makes it into something greater, and it grows and it grows and it grows. That's what we are. And I do want to show you, I brought with me today, I had to dig this out. So thankfully you don't get to smell this because it came out of our cedar chest where we store everything. But this was actually knitted together before I was born by my great-grandmother. And it is still today as functional as it ever was, strong as it ever was. You put this thing on you and it's going to warm you up. It's a little itchy. Been sitting in the cedar chest for a long time. But its function is still exactly what it was intended to be when my great-grandmother, Grandma Minnie, knitted it together. And that's beautiful because that is a description of what we're called to be. That's the kind of church that we want to be. So it's not just about fellowship. It's not just about coming together and breaking bread. It's not just about a message. It's not about this message. I love Matt's worship, but it's not about that. The reality is, if you're sitting in a home experience and you're watching this right now, you have the opportunity to be a part of something truly incredible, life-changing. But what has to happen is we have to make a conscious decision that we're going to be part of that Afghan. We have to allow ourselves to be stitched together with others. We can't come into this with pretense. We can't come into this with partiality. We can't look at the people who are sitting on the chairs across from us with even a thought of they're better than me or they're worse than me. If there's somebody I like, there's somebody I don't like. There's somebody I'd spend my life with. They're not somebody I'd spend my life with. The reality is it doesn't matter whether you like them or not. Because Christ tells us that we're supposed to love each other. And we're not the ones that chooses who he weaves our life with. If I were left to my own devices and chose only the people that were just like me, thought like me, spoke like me, I would have such a boring life. But I am so blessed with what God has surrounded me with, what God has given me. And if I'm going to be vulnerable and let you guys in, and I am, then I have to tell you that if it were up to me, I probably wouldn't be in this chair right now. What you guys don't know is that a year ago, PG and I were at odds. We had a falling out. We disagreed on something and both of us kind of got our feelings hurt. The what doesn't even matter. The depth of it doesn't even matter. Because the thought is, see, if we were a tapestry, if we were a traditional, if we'd done what we would normally do, then when that happened, PG's not going anywhere. This is his baby. He created it. But any other time, I probably would have said, well, it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to go find something different. But what I kept hearing was PG talking about and God whispering and reminding me that this is about friendship. It's not about church. It's about a journey with Christ as friends, about moving in a relationship, joining ourselves together, weaving and intertwining our lives together, even to the point in which we disagree and therefore have to figure things out. Because the reality is, you start trying to take apart an Afghan, one, you'll find it difficult to do. You really have to end up taking a knife to it or scissors to it. You're not going to tear it apart. And if you're willing to do that, then you need to know that you're left with a big mess at the end of the day. Nothing good comes out of it. But PG and I, we just kept going. And I am thankful today that I am sharpened because of my relationship with him. And I think he would agree that that he is sharpened because of his relationship with me. And it isn't that anything special happened. Honestly, I can't tell you that we ever sat down and said, this is how we fix it. I don't think we ever did, because it didn't need to happen. It never did need to happen, because once we realized that it was about the friendship and we focused on that, then all of that other stuff just fell away, just went away. And I want to tell you that it's important that you look at the room that you're in right now. If you're in a home experience watching this, these people are important to you more than I could ever tell you. These people are important to you. But I'll give you a few examples of what it looks like to have your life woven with people who care about you, who think about you, who love you and want the best for you. Because at that same Easter, I wanted nothing more than my dad to experience an Easter service out there. And yet I knew that it was going to be really hard at 91 for him to walk out there. So a brother offered the right chair that was stiff enough that it could be carried. And many men offered. 4 stepped in and did. They grabbed the corners of those chairs with my dad in it, picked him up, laughing on his way out there, and carried him out to the tent and put him in his chair where he was able to enjoy a day at the beach. That's something he hasn't done in a long time. That's what it looks like to be woven together. It looks like every day that my son was in the hospital with hip surgery, somebody from this church, from this family, was there visiting, talking to him, pouring life into him. And when my boys are knuckleheads and they go off the rails, inevitably somebody in this church is having a conversation with them. It's about so many people that have come to the house just to sit and watch football games or basketball games with my dad while Alicia and I grab a quick date night. It's about phone calls in the depth of the worst grief just to listen to a brother cry it out. It's about giving a car when a car was needed and receiving a car when the need was great. It's about conversations that happen way beyond our usual nights of sitting in a circle, whether it be through the text thread or whether it just be picking up the phone to go just to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. Anything I can do for you? Anything you need? Or just to talk. Sometimes it's just to talk about something silly like sports or fishing or whatever it is. Because you see, the thing that's different about us is that those of us who have committed have said, this is my family. These are people that I want to love and I want to receive their love. And I'm willing to put myself out there. I don't know how many friends you have. I don't know how many friends you have the capability to have. But you have an incredible opportunity right now in front of you to have something that very few people experience. So if you're in this group and you're breaking bread, small talking, waiting for the night to get over so you can go about your business, then you're missing out, checking a box, and you were never intended for that. You were intended to be part of an Afghan. You were intended to be something that was warm and comforting. You were intended with purpose and intentionality to be part of something that makes a difference in the world. So I'm going to ask that you just spend some time with your group. And listen, for those of you who aren't in a group right now, if you're watching this by yourself, man, I hope it strikes a chord with you. And whatever it takes, we're willing to do it. We'll get something together for you. You just have to be open to it and reach out, and we'll make it happen. If that means getting you to an existing group, we'll do that. If it means creating a group, we'll do that too, whatever it takes. Because this is worth it. It's worth it. So I thank you for your time. There's going to be some questions at the end, but really, honestly, I just want you to spend some time affirming each other, loving on each other. Get vulnerable, because you may need to tell the group that you haven't been all in. And if you haven't, it's okay. Be honest about it and commit to doing it now. And I'm going to challenge you to do one last thing. I'm going to say something that Pastor Greg isn't in a position to say, because for Pastor Greg, this is his baby. This is something he built because God led him to build it. And because of that, we all tend to look at it and go, what he says has a certain interest in it. And it's always about growing the difference. And those of you that know him well know that that's not his heart. It hurts to lose people. It hurts when people leave because it's about friendship, not about numbers. None of us care about that. I don't care how many people are part of this group. I don't care how many are in my home on a Sunday night, but I can tell you that I miss the individuals, the ones that aren't there, the smiles, the kids, the joking, the deep thought, the input. I miss them being part of my life. So the ones in my home experience, I can personally tell you, I miss you. This is me telling you, I miss you. But on behalf of our pastor, every one of you is important. And you got to know that you're missed. I appreciate you all, and I hope that you have a great end of your night as you talk. And as always, we are always here for you. Heavenly Father, Lord, do what you will with this time. We come surrendered to you. In your name, amen.